Good morning. I want to thank everybody for being here. Obviously, I want to introduce the people that are at my side. Our mayor, Mayor Ed Lee, Police Commissioner Susie Loftus, the Attorney General for California, Kamala Harris, and representing SF City, Ron Conway. It was about a year ago that many of you were here and we were going to speak to an advancement in technology that we're going to keep San Francisco police officers in the field for up to 40% longer. I want to thank Todd Bradley, Hewlett-Packard, and Ron Conway and SF City for making that happen. The pilot, as it went, did not end up being the device that we were looking for. It was too big, it was too costly, which was on the downside, but on the very upside, we found the perfect device to use in field command posts, and it paid huge benefits during the World Series and the NFC playoffs where the 49ers were just that close. Anyway, the search went on, and as I told you last year, a very dear friend of mine from school, Mike Homer, we used to talk all the time about that we should be further along in technology in San Francisco and that the San Francisco Police Department could be cutting edge. I became close friends with Ron Conway, Bill Campbell, and others that were friends of Mike's. And when I got the chance to be chief and found that there was no department-wide email, we were on a closed server, there was work to be done. Thankfully, we're blessed with a mayor that's all about information and technology, and a district attorney now, attorney general, who's all about being smart on crime. With that, Susan Giffen and her team got the department-wide email. We now have an award-winning data warehouse. Leo Solomon's here representing Susan. It's that time in San Francisco. We're moving forward, and we now have a device that is in the hands of about a third of the officers. We're way past a pilot now. It's a rollout, and as you'll hear from the speakers to come, the San Francisco Police Department will be fully equipped with these field devices, which we believe will keep them in the field 40% longer and go a long way to make San Francisco a safer place. So, first up, to talk a little bit more about this device, Mayor Ed Lee.
Thank you, Chief, sir, and thank you again for your leadership, your command staff, of course, the commissioners, for your embracing of technology in our city and utilizing in the best way to serve the public. I want to express my personal appreciation to Attorney General Kamala Harris. Your record is just very clear, and your partnership on this is extremely welcome. And of course, Ron Conway, for your constant care about the quality of life in our city and how technology can help improve it. We're here at the Academy for several reasons. One, standing behind us, the new class of recruits. They look very young, very energetic, and they represent, of course, our future. And I know that our command staff is looking at them with very eager eyes because they're under the proper training in this academy, and this is why we're here. We're also here to talk about the present and the future of our police force in our city. And this is why the conversation about technology is with us. Because in light of the strong classes of men and women that we will have to add to the spots that are being retired out, and also the need to increase our police force, we have their training being at the heart of the center. You know, we've talked a lot about technology in our city, but when it comes to police officers, particularly those in the field, time management is of critical importance. Everybody knows that. Getting to a crime scene, understanding what's occurred before, during, and after a reported incident is incredibly, incredibly important to the officer's ability to get the right information, but to all of the rest of the staff working, whether it's an investigation or a response or group response. Today, we are announcing not only a device, but the intelligence of technology helping our officers save more time and still get the right information. We have on display today some smartphones. These phones are not just for calling your fellow officers or sometimes your mayor to report on whatever is happening that he or she may be interested in, but it's also a assemblage of very important information. Thanks to our Attorney General and thanks to Sue Giffen and, of course, the police chief, we've loaded up these smartphones with information that ordinarily would not be instantly accessible to field command, except if they went back to their police department headquarters or went back to their stations and accessed themselves on a computer. This information is invaluable. It is information that has been collected by the state, regional, and our own city government that can help. And I know the Attorney General is going to go into very close detail on it, but it will help the officers in the field with invaluable time saving. That is really, really important, especially in light of these days where things have to be done very quickly, especially if you're looking for somebody. We have information now that appears on our highways. We have information that alerts everyone to be cognizant about what's going on. Well, the officers themselves also need to have that information right in the action that it happens. We announced this also in light of some very important information too in the backdrop that everyone has been helping, and I specifically say thank you to the numbers of community partners that we have throughout the city. Today, we are looking at a 40% difference, a 40% drop in homicides year to date in the city, county of San Francisco. That's an incredible reflection of the work that we're doing in partnership with our communities. We have a 20% drop year to date in shootings in San Francisco. And I say this knocking hard on this wood because you've heard the other announcements with our sister cities across the Bay or down south, and they're hurting, and they need the kind of data that we have and the kind of collection that we have. And I want to say thank you to the community for working with us on community policing. I also want to say thank you to all of the departments, to United Way, working with our justice, our violence prevention division that Deanna heads up, because it's invaluable that we do the other things that our police officers may not be able to do but are part of. Creating those jobs, announcing that we had 6,000 jobs, Kamala, this summer in San Francisco. And I know you know how important this is because you've had kids up at the state getting jobs up there and internships. And I know you believe, and we believe, that this will lead to the helpful partnership they have with our own kids, that they see jobs, they see education, they see activity in this city, also reaching out to them so that they can see a future for themselves and not occupy themselves with street activity. So that is as valuable a part of this IPO strategy, the strategy that the police chief and I and the commission have embraced. Just interrupt the patterns that we see, use our technology to do better predictive policing, and then through jobs, through community support, through advocacy, organize our communities appropriately. But we say at this time that while we are temporarily in a good place, we need to use this opportunity to excel in every area. And today the area is about smartphones, about getting good information, getting into the hands of officers so that they can respond even better with a lot more context than they ever have before in the field when it's necessary. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to Chief, sir.
So, smartphones. What's so special about a smartphone? Other police departments have smartphones. The smartphones we have, they can access our crime data warehouse, which is web-based. They can access what's called CalPhoto for pictures, San Francisco booking photos, our email system, and the SFPD network to crime bulletins, penal codes, and our policies and procedures. The current phone capabilities, obviously they'll take phone calls and police officers can text back and forth, which takes less bandwidth. They have a camera, a video recorder, GPS maps, talk-to-text, and Google Translation, all making for better police reports, better evidence, which will make for better cases. But that still wasn't enough for the mayor or me, and thankfully for our Attorney General. Our Attorney General has been a friend to the police department for at least as long as the 32 years that I've been around, even though she looks younger than that. I didn't mean to. We'll talk. Well, I'm sure I'll hear about that later.
Where are you going with that?
That wasn't written down. I'll stay on script now. But she's often quoted on saying that you need to not only be tough on crime, but you need to be smart on crime. San Francisco is a hub where we get all sorts of folks from all sorts of places that come in, and we want them here, but we want to be a safe place. So without further ado, to tell you what makes this phone the only phone of its kind in California, the Attorney General for California, Kamala Harris.
Thank you. So I stand here as the chief law enforcement officer of the biggest state in this country and a very proud San Franciscan to announce with my law enforcement and community partners what is going to be transformative for law enforcement in the state and a model for the country, and it is called the JusticeMobile App. As my dear friend Chief Sir mentioned, we've known each other a long time. Susie Loftus, the commissioner, will remember when I was first elected District Attorney of San Francisco in 2004, 2/3 of our lawyers did not have email, which was a shocking fact that a premier law office in San Francisco, the first cousin to Silicon Valley, did not have email. Under the chief's leadership with Mayor Lee, in 2011, San Francisco Police Department rolled out email for the first time. And some would say, how can this be in this first-class city that we're just now doing these things and functioning the way the rest of the world works? But I would suggest to you with this announcement today, San Francisco has leapfrogged above and beyond all others in the adoption of technology. And why is the adoption of technology by law enforcement so critical and directly related to public safety? Well, one of the main purposes and the greatest tools that we in law enforcement have is our ability to communicate. Through the support of people like Ron Conway and the innovation that's happening in Silicon Valley and actually right here in San Francisco, technology has afforded us the ability to communicate faster, with more accuracy and more efficiency. And let's just connect that to what we need to do more in government anyway. Move a little faster, be a little bit more efficient, and hopefully more accurate. So what we are doing today is unveiling the first police department in the state of California to work with the California Department of Justice to roll out JusticeMobile App. And essentially what it will do, and you'll see a short presentation after I speak, is what it will do is it will allow patrol officers out on the street, those officers, those SFPD officers you see walking up and down 6th Street, up and down the Mission, it'll allow them through their smartphone, which everyone's got in their back pocket, and the police chief made sure that every patrol officer in SFPD will have by the end of this rollout the ability to do this. They'll have on their smartphone the ability to get real-time information about criminal backgrounds and criminal justice information about a suspect. Now, they've always had the ability to get that information, but not very quickly. They've had to do it on their radio. In fact, let's talk about the evolution of technology by law enforcement. I think it was sometime around the 1930s that there was the one-way radio. Then sometime around the 1970s, there was the two-way radio. Fast forward to laptops in 2011 and email. and now this. So what it allows that officer to do out on the beat, on the street, with his and her primary function being to keep those streets safe, is they can then look on this iPhone, on their smartphone, on their Galaxy phone, and directly access the California Department of Justice's CLETS system, which is the system that we maintain that provides accuracy around criminal backgrounds, convictions, letting that officer know if the person they're contacting is a parolee, letting that officer know if that person they're contacting is legally prohibited from owning or using a firearm, or perhaps that that person they're contacting is on my California Department of Justice's apps list, which means there's somebody who we know has purchased a gun, and also someone who was found by a court to have been mentally ill, thereby not allowed to own or possess a gun, or they found by a court to be a felon, which means, again, they could not possess or own a gun. The officer on the street, on the beat, will now have the ability, through their smartphone, to get that information in real time. They don't have to radio someone to give the information. What's that information you gave? Repeat it. Then then have that person they're calling get the information. That takes time because they go onto the website, they go onto the computer system, the California Department of Justice computer system. Then they've got to repeat it. What's that again? It's windy out here. It's raining. Give it to me again. We cut through all of that potentially can be fraught with human error or redundancy or just a delay in time. And every officer, every law enforcement professional will tell you, time matters for that cop on the street. There is a huge significance to the passage of time, and that can mean the passage of seconds in terms of that officer's own safety as well as the safety of the community. So what we are unveiling today is truly transformative and another sign of what we as California are capable of doing and supporting our law enforcement, what we can do, as Ed Lee has done so well as mayor, which is bring the private sector in and the technology it's creating to work with us in government and law enforcement to do our jobs better. So I'm very excited about this. Los Angeles Police Department is going to be following lead and will be rolling this out in the coming months. And we expect that this will be picked up throughout the state of California in the next few months. And in particular, I want to also recognize and thank Larry Wallace, the Director of Law Enforcement for the California Department of Justice, and Steve Lindley, and their leadership in bringing this to my agents in the California Bureau of Firearms. We've been sending our special agents out to gun shows. We know we've got a big problem with that out here in the Cow Palace and other places around the state. And my agents are legally responsible for patrolling those gun shows to make sure that people who are on the apps list, people who've been convicted of felonies, people who are prohibited from owning firearms, they don't purchase them at those gun shows. They don't get engaged in straw purchases. So with this technology, JusticeMobile App, our agents have been going out to gun shows as we've been rolling it out and having the ability to interact, whereas before with perhaps 20 individuals, with, as of this date, as much as 80. It has allowed them to multiply the number of people they can contact to determine if those people are engaged in a crime. So this is truly about, as Chief Sir said, being smart on crime. And being smart on crime means solving crime and reducing crime. And I believe this technology is going to directly point in that direction.
So again, I spoke to a mutual friend of Ron Conway's and mine, Mike Homer, who was constantly prodding. Unfortunately, Mike has passed away, but he leaves behind my nudge over here. Ron is constantly calling, what can I do? How can I help? How can we push the department forward? Very supportive of both the mayor and the attorney general, just in the want to make San Francisco a better place and a safer place. And I'd like him to say a couple words.
Thank you, Greg. SF City, which is almost 2 years old now, is delighted to bring the tech community into parts of San Francisco that the tech community never participated before. SF City has over 600 member companies, and we're delighted that a year and a half ago we were an instigator in trying to get technology and innovation adopted first in San Francisco, and that pilot has led to this mobile device solution that we just saw, which, as Greg said, is going to increase police presence by 40% on the street. That's a great project for all of us to be involved in. So it's great that San Francisco is a leading innovative city given the tech presence in our city. It's also nice to see that our Chief of Police and our Attorney General have an app for that.
So we're almost at the end. I just wanted to speak a little bit to some more acknowledgments. I want to acknowledge my command staff. We've really asked a lot of our officers, and we will be of the officers behind me, to be at a 30-plus year or more low in homicides on September 10th is unbelievable. The last time we were even close was as Heather Fong closed out her time as Chief of Police in August of 2009, but there were 300 more police officers here at the time. It was just a year before our district attorney would be elected the Attorney General of California, just to put it in context. And while everybody else is going through the same time where we're down officers, it's through the cooperation of the rank and file, the police department, many of the officers that line the walls here, and our Police Officers Association to make scheduling changes and work more days for no more compensation, to work more nights, to work more weekends. The mayor's programs of engaging young people, 6,000 jobs last summer, hundreds of jobs were working with the San Francisco Police Department. It all makes a difference. It is so unbelievable that this came together when, two guys, when I guess I was a sergeant, would talk to Mike, you meet Ron, we find Susan Giffen and Leo Solomon and the team. When we get here, all they needed was the go. We have a mayor that when he interviewed me, he said, hey, you just got to get us from here to there and just tell me when you hit a bump. I'll get you over the bump. Thankfully, Naomi Kelly's a great chief administrative officer because we've hit bumps since. And she just says, is this what the mayor wants? This is what he wants. It happens. And then we get a little bit lucky. We catch Commissioner Susie Loftus on our team, late of Team Harris. We want Kletz. Susie says, I can do that. So the next thing you know, we're in the room and we get Leo and Susan's group in with the DOJ group, and it happens for the first time ever in the state of California that the cops are going to have these on the beat. What you can't even appreciate is just the pictures. The fact that they have the pictures, the fact that police reports will have the actual voice of a victim, that the attachments of literally of a movie, of a scene. I mean, it's just all good. Before we close, I'll speak a little bit to the security of the device because that's a big deal. We have two-factor authentication, one that you have, which is a hard token, and one that you know. If you don't have both, you can't access the device. The device can be remotely wiped. No data is stored on the device, and we can't access anybody else's stuff, and they can't access ours, which I know is a big concern right now as we worry about privacy rights. This is a law enforcement tool that, as the Attorney General spoke to, 1930s we got one-way radios, in the 70s we got two-way radios, and in 2013 we're getting smartphones, and in 2020 hopefully everybody will have them and you won't even be able to imagine a cop without one. So with that, I will close.